We work so you can play. MiniWarGaming's The Fate of Fayoom.
Matthew here from MiniWarGaming.com, and it's time for another story time for the Necron Tyranid campaign of the Battle for the Tomb World Fayoom. Of course, on the world known as Pictoris, to the Imperial Empire, whatever you want to call it. Anyways, hopefully you've watched all the missions leading up to now. If you're just joining us now, I strongly recommend that you stop the video and you go and watch the previous missions in this campaign, because this is a narrative campaign, meaning that there's a story built up. This is not built for balance or competition or anything. We're just playing it out to actually have a story. However, the story is developing as we do this campaign. We're literally making it up as we go along based on the results of the previous missions. So it's all inspired by what actually happens in the battle report. So none of this is rigged, none of this is scripted. It's just the missions are planned, we see what happens, and then we move on from there based on what happened in those missions. So last time we were together, we played a couple of missions where the Necrons had to secure the communications array, as well as secure the Scythe Matrix in their tomb world. And at the communications array, now if you're a Vault member, you'd have seen both of these. If you're not a Vault member, I still urge you to join. You can join for free for 7 days. There's the links to the missions below. If you click on the second one, it'll show you how you can join the Vault for free, and you can get access to all the previous ones and the one today. But anyways, I'm going to give spoilers to what happened to the last one. So if you don't want spoilers, then go and join the Vault, and then go and watch the previous ones, and then you can come and watch this. So, first off, Overlord Sobek needed to reactivate the Scythe Matrix, having been reassembled after being destroyed by the Broodlord the first time. And when he comes into where the Scythe Matrix is in his tomb world, which is in very big disrepair, it's a lot of stuff that needs to be done, a lot of work yet to do to reactivate this whole world. When he gets in there, who does he see? He sees the Broodlord, the one who killed him and sent him back for repairs. So he's a little ticked off at this, and so he amasses his forces, and it's a fight, the Broodlord trying to destroy the Scythe Matrix before Overlord Sobek was able to reactivate it. And the Broodlord almost succeeded. He got, not only to destroy enough of the power relays, but he actually got to the Scythe Matrix and started to tear it apart and disassemble it, and managed to do quite a bit of damage just as Overlord Sobek charged in with his group of immortals. And then, unfortunately, Sobek then showed a bit of his cowardly side and sent mind shackle scarabs to get the Broodlord to kill himself. So the Broodlord actually ended up scratching himself so much from the mind shackle scarabs that he tore himself to pieces, and he fell to the ground as a casualty. And the rest of the Tyranid forces were scattered back. And Overlord Sobek was able to reactivate the Scythe Matrix, which means he will now have access to Night and Doom sides, which should be very interesting. Meanwhile, in the other front of the battle, at the communications array, the rest of the Necron force that arrived there after the ambush in the woods did find the communications array, and they realized it was in disrepair, and so they started to make repairs. But the Tyranids, sensing this, started to come in wave after wave after wave. Tons of Hormagaunts, warriors, and Hive Guard, and Biovores. Right off the bat, Biovores launched a Spore Mine attack that destroyed a huge group of warriors. And then the rest of them started coming out of the monoliths as they tried to reactivate them. And the monoliths then tried to fire too, some of them fizzling out because they just weren't brought back online enough. And the fight was hard. The Hormagaunts started to overrun. There was a group of warriors that held their ground as long as they could, but were finally overrun in the end after taking as much time to let more reinforcements arrive. And with just barely enough time, the Necrons managed to reactivate the communications array and restore power to the other monoliths, which were able to provide enough firepower to blast away the Tyranids and push back that assault. And the Tyranids retreated before they took too many casualties. However, the Tyranid Prime that led that assault was not killed in that battle. And so he has regrouped and is learning from his losses and is preparing a new strike against the same communications array. So today we have two missions once again, one for free and one that's going in the Vault. The one that's free, the very first one that you're going to see, is the second battle at this communications array, where now that the Tyranid Prime has relayed this important information back to the Hive Fleet, and now that the Hive Fleet has finally arrived, there is going to be another assault on that same array. And once they did reactivate the communications array, the first thing they did was start scanning, and in space, what do they see? They see an entire Hive Fleet that is in their basically in their solar system, in their borders, that has arrived and has already started to seed the planet with lots of organisms, both large and small. And so Overlord Sobek, feeling bold from his victory against the Broodlord, thinking that he's something special, he says, we're going to send raiding parties and actually take down those hive ships from the inside out. And so he sends off, now that he's reactivated all these night sides, he sends off a huge army of night sides with boarding parties to go and board as many of the hive ships as possible, to maybe find that they can like detonate their power drive or whatever it is, that's because they know that with the Necron vehicles and spaceships, that there's the power systems, and if they can disable the power systems, it destroys the ship. So he has the same idea for the hive ships, not knowing completely how they work, but still thinking that there has to be some sort of generator to destroy. Well, unfortunately, those missions were a little foolish, and most of the boarding parties were destroyed when they tried to approach the hive ships. And those who managed to get on board, most of them were killed almost right off the bat, as the ships basically vomited out tons of organisms to combat them. But there's one boarding party led by an overlord who wants to prove himself to Sobek. In fact, it's one of his priests from a long time ago, is Overlord Fayoom. And he's desperate to prove himself so that he can rise up in the ranks of this tomb world, and when it's restored to its glory, he'll be the right-hand man to Grand Overlord Sobek and have all the glory, and maybe one day usurp that power at the same time. And so he manages to punch through the ship that he lands on, and he actually lands on one that looks like it's important. He's not quite sure. He's never really seen hive ships before. And they punch through into the ship, and they start to push through the corridors. And he's got a large force with him, but slowly and surely they all get picked off as parts of the walls open up and literally grab entire squads of warriors and immortals and pull them back, and they disappear, and he has no idea where they are, but he keeps pushing through anyways. And he ends up in a large chamber of what he can only guess is the central part of the ship, and on the far end of the chamber, on the far away, he sees this big brain-like structure, and so he's like, well, these things, maybe they have a brain instead of a generator. I don't know, I've never seen these before. And so his mission at that point is to decide that he's going to push through and actually try to slaughter that thing and maybe earn his place, and maybe if he can escape alive, that Grand Overlord Sobek will welcome him as his second in command. And so that'll be the second mission that'll be available in the vault. So you can go ahead and click on the links below to go and watch these two battle reports. The first one for free and the second one in the vault. The links are right below. Enjoy and happy wargaming. One hull point or structure point, whatever you want to call it. Leadership tests on the death marks, 10 or less. They're fine. Good. Leadership tests on the warriors. Oh, they're fine. Okay. Just barely. Death marks reanimation on a 5+. There's 4 of them. One of them gets up.